unfortunately, it looks like a permanent shock. And unfortunately, the United Kingdom hasn't grown anywhere near as much as it would have had since 2008. And that's been a big problem. It has hurt our investments. Brexit obviously wasn't, the best thing that happened for investments, because people in 2016 just did not know what was going to happen to the UK economy. And obviously then we had COVID. That was a problem for everybody. But these economic shocks have rendered the European countries quite rigid, as opposed to being flexible enough to move themselves out of that state and back into their, let's call it, equilibrium state, because they are aligned together and they just simply cannot move properly. And that's one of the problems from the financial crisis. That shock has now become, unfortunately, a permanent shock.
Well,
and that's just my opinion.
Is that right? You feel it's a permanent shock?
I do think that it definitely is a permanent shock. I mean, people say, yeah, when you put the euros aligned together, the euro will be stronger. That doesn't matter. If the euro is strong, it doesn't necessarily mean that the countries are going to work very well together. It's been proven that prior to the EMU and the formation of the 11 countries, yeah. They were adjusting much better in terms of certain parameters were adjusting much better than after. Afterwards, it was much more expensive to adjust than before. So it's obviously much more expensive for European countries to adjust after the euro than before the euro, and that's a problem. If it's more expensive to adjust, it's much better to have your own currency and interest rates to be able to adjust, as opposed to sharing a currency and interest rates and adjusting them, because then other factors such as employment, or let's call it unemployment. If there's unemployment, that's a welfare cost, and welfare costs are obviously detrimental to countries. And this is a major problem for the European countries in that sense. And so that's why, for me, the EMU was I think it was one of the big disasters of Europe, and it's rendered a lot of countries. The UK does 44% of our trade with Europe. It's a big problem. We can't do trade with Europe if they are not sort of demanding as much as they would have done prior to the EMU. It's not good for us, and this is going to hurt. This is going to hurt investments coming into the country, because they're not seeing us trade as much as we would like to, and that's been a big problem, I think.
I mean, there's not going to be any easy changeover back to what it used to be.
No, and I am in discussion also with the European Commission, sort of writing letters as to their 2025 convergence. It's coming up soon. All their convergence criteria have to be met. They want to see where they are. How has it gone? They're going to sort of do a full report, and they have sort of assured me they write letters back to me. I don't actually, it's very strange. I believe that they actually were going to write back to me, but they've written back to me and say, everything is on course. We are actually have noted down your concerns about Europe, etc. But we are aligned to sort of meeting our goals and targets, etc. and all that stuff thing. But I'm still not swayed by that, to be honest. I really do think that I'm not sure where Europe's going after 2025. We've got all sorts of other problems around the world. And I think one of the big things was this amalgamation of currencies and interest rates. For me, it just doesn't work.
Okay, you know what? Let me ask you this, because I'm sure that listening to this, there are people that want to look forward and want to look at what would be the best strategies. What are some suggestions, or what would you position in helping someone to think forward? Because looking back, yes, we know it happened. You can't change the past. It's how we react going forward.
In terms of personnel, people, or in terms of governments?
Well, let's look at both sides. Let's start with people first.
Yes, I mean, well, people can't really do much about it, really. There's nothing you can really do. I think in terms of
they're going to invest regardless. They're going to invest. They have to invest money that they prepare for their future, for their retirement, for their families. So they're going to invest their dollars.
Yes,
and
I think in terms of,
go ahead.
Yeah, no. In terms of investments, obviously, people really need to look for the future. Obviously, not as you say, not to look back. I think people obviously have to be very sensible with funding, with their funds. Property is obviously a very good investable sort of vehicle to go into. If people are looking, and anybody can invest in stocks and real estate, etc. REITs are obviously a very, very good investment vehicle. Come to me. I will show you where the investable areas are. So obviously, I'm not going to go now into details of which places are investable, etc. What I would say is people can look at things like Look at the retail space. The shopping centres are now, particularly in the United Kingdom, they're disappearing. People are now going more online. So people are now looking into industrial warehouses. Industrial warehouses, particularly in areas like Eastern Europe, are much more of an attractive vehicle than, for example, office spaces which are closing down, not closing down, but people are much more sort of hybrid, working from home, that type of thing. So those kind of things that people can look at and invest, if they're looking to invest their funds in those kinds of areas, without giving too much away, obviously. But that's just a very sort of generic picture of what's happening at the moment. And likewise, I guess, for investors, affluent investors, very much the same story. As far as governments are concerned, that's a different matter. Yeah. If we're looking at the United Kingdom, if I can just sort of go to the United Kingdom, obviously we've now had a change of government, and they're looking to build an economy. Now, if you're going to build an economy, that's great. Everybody wants a strong economy, but how are you going to do that? You know, and one of the things that I think you're going to do, you should really be doing, is looking at investment. Foreign investment, direct investment coming into the country is one of the things we have, but we have to make the conditions right for people to be able to invest. We need low interest rates, we need skilled labor, we need all these kind of things. And at the moment, we don't have the skilled labor that we need to be able to move ahead as much as we'd like to. And we've become much more of a sort of service industry as opposed to manufacturing, etc. But it's still an investable country, it's still a country that people should come and invest in, but we need to have lower interest rates, which we're now starting to have. We also need to make sure that all our infrastructure is correct. We have really good rail projects that are happening. Unfortunately, we've shed one or two of them. It's cost lots of money, but you know, we have to have a place where we have the conditions that are right, and foreign direct investment is the best way to go for the country to start to grow again. It means all sorts of things without getting very political about it. The governments are talking about, you know, getting people off of welfare and that type of thing, getting people back into work. Lots of people who are not working. Let's get house building projects happening. People are paying far too high in rents, etc., rather than investing their funds into different things. It's a bit of a problem, and those are the kind of areas they're looking to go, and governments are looking to go into. Talking obviously on the behalf of the United Kingdom, but if we want to, we can obviously talk about Europe, etc., which is my sort of main area. But we won't go into that now.
Let me ask you another question too. How does the war in Ukraine and Russia affected the economy in Europe?
It has been a difficult time for the last 2.5 years now. We've seen with the rising costs. Rising costs are no good. That's inflationary. Inflation is not competitive. We just couldn't sustain that, and it has affected us, particularly in the United Kingdom. We've had to have interest rate increases here, and it's been very detrimental to our to businesses. It's detrimental to people who can't spend more as they'd like to. With the higher rents, people have got less money in their pockets, and we're having to start sort of cut costs in different places. Governments are having to do that. We have something now called for example, the winter fuel allowance. The sort of 10 million elderly people are now having that cut from this present government because we simply can't afford that. And that's not directly as a result of the war in Ukraine, but the war in Ukraine has exacerbated these kind of things because it's been a very difficult time. But fortunately now, after 2.5 years, we've managed to get our interest rates down, and that's the start of what we hope to be growth.
We're getting toward the wrap up of our half hour here. Give me, what would you like to share with our audience, that something they can take home with them?
In terms of investing, in terms of anything, or
whatever you think. I'm going to leave it up to you to decide. What do you think?
Right. Okay. I think we've had a very difficult 2 years, 2.5 years. I think we're now coming towards the end of it. I think it's now time for sort of governments to start looking to see where they can grow their economies and start to get bigger and stronger. I think they also need to start being a little bit more sensible. But I think one of the things is that people shouldn't despair so much. If governments, particularly in the United Kingdom, say what they do what they say they're going to do, then we should see a very sort of prosperous 4 or 5 years. It's not going to happen immediately. It will happen over the long term. And people are also starting to take net zero seriously. And I think that's a good thing. That's a great thing. And if people are looking at investable vehicles, look towards the green economy. That's the next thing.
All right. Before we wrap up here, I want to share with the audience how they can reach you.
Sure. I am on info@affluentassetanalytics.com. And the website is www.affluentassetanalytics.com. It's quite a long one, but you'll get there.
All right. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Hold on, I'm going to shut down and then we'll chat a little bit here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay. How does it feel?
Yeah, it's not bad. This is good.
Well, you know what? It takes a number of these to get used to them.
Yes.
But what it does is that when I first started, I was all over the place. Now I kind of settled in. And what makes me feel a little more at ease in how I'm talking to an audience and how to get my subject matter out. But I think that you as an economist is important. Let the world know what you do, how to reach you, and some of the ideas you're sharing today. That thing about, to me, is important to understand, because investors need to know what's going forward. We know what's happened in the past. We can't change the past. It's a huge fiasco. I want to leave. In fact, what happened to me in the end, I wound up going from my old firm to JP Morgan. So I went, it's like I stepped up, and I stepped up to a vice. It wasn't this. I was a vice president. I wasn't a huge major level. I was a mid-level vice president, middle management vice president, but still a nicer title and a nicer position. But, and that's what people look for. They want to know, where am I going? What's the future to hold? They look for themselves. They're looking for their children. What can I do now to make an impact on tomorrow?
Of course, and that's a critical thing. People want to know what they should do in the future. Definitely.
And
yeah, absolutely.
They're still going to take their vacation and go on holiday by the seaside, as you call it. No matter what, we still just have some time to wind down. That's the whole part of having a holiday away from
exactly
the hustle and bustle.
Looking forward to that tomorrow.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to be in Europe probably about October or November.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, my daughter moves in. She's home. She's going to be home this week. And she moves to France at the end of the month.
Right.
And we're going to be in France, probably south of France, sometime in November. Yeah, probably November. I shoot through London like I go through all the time. So I will follow up with you while I'm there.
Yes, excellent. Yes, well, we're always here.
Absolutely.
Always here.
This is a pleasure talking to you. Anything else when we wrap up today?
No, it's been really good. Thank you very much. It's been really good. I look forward to the reels.
What you're going to see at this going forward now, your name and contact information will be at the top of the screen.
Brilliant. Okay, excellent. That's really good. It's good to know.
Okay, thank you so much, Victor.
Thank you so much, then. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.